Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome to the third episode of Diner Talks with James. My name is James Robillata, and I am so excited that you are here. Thank you so much for coming out and kicking it with us today. We're here, episode 3. Can you believe it? We're 3 episodes in, and 3 means jumping in to the top three. Today's recommendations came from a number of different cool places, and I am excited to get into the top three. My trusty Post-it notes are out here. Let's jump into the very first one. Very first one is 3 songs I could listen to forever. First off, this was really hard. And for some of these, like best movie, best, I think we need to start defining them by decade. So when you all want me to talk about top three, make sure that you're giving me maybe a decade if you want some movies, or if you want some music, or if you want some things like that. Let's jump into some more specifics, because y'all making this real hard. By the way, I don't know where you're tuning in from right now, but I would love to know where you're tuning in from now. Throw it in the comments. Let me know, where are you here from? Where are you calling in? What's going on in your world? How are you feeling this evening? I'm excited to jump in. So here we go. The 3 songs that I could listen to forever. There were some honorable mentions. First off, Jay-Z, City Is Mine. This is a song, his first song off of his album Volume 1, and it was a song that I credit this one with getting me into hip-hop, and I can still listen to it all day, every day. Also, I'm currently on a Bob Seger kick, so Bob Seger Night Moves all day with that song. So I love it. Alex Dudek, thank you so much for coming out. Alex here, long-time listener, first-time caller. Love it, brother. Thank you so much. Reba coming in from Massachusetts. I'm not Leo Minster. That's a fun one to say, isn't it? We got Scott out here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Scott, what it do, boo? So, friends, that's the first song. Those are the first ones that I would say that they're honorable mentions. I have so many more that I could list, but let's jump into the top 3 ones that I could think about right now. Now, if you ask me this question next week, you may get a brand new set of 3. Who knows? I don't claim to be consistent, but I do claim to be adorable. So, first off, by Mumford & Sons. Now, here's the thing. As soon as you turned on this broadcast, you were like, this guy likes Mumford & Sons. Some of you are like, this guy may be in Mumford & Sons, right? Like, you would not be blown away if my first name was Mumford. Alas, here we are. So Mumford & Sons is one of my favorite bands of all times, and all times. That's how that's read. And one of my favorite songs by them is called Awake My Soul. It has one of my favorite quotes of all time. Mumford & Sons say, in these bodies we will live, in these bodies we will die, but where you invest your love, you invest your life. In these bodies we will live, in these bodies we will die, but where you invest your love, you invest your life. I love that song. I love Mumford & Sons. They're storytellers, and I'm here for them. Next, I had to put some hip-hop in here. So now, I don't love this man's entire collection, but Freeway's What We Do is one of my favorite songs of all time, and it is just a bop. I'm telling you, it's a banger. It crushes in the club. Everybody out here, I don't know, I could dance all night to that song. I'm here for it. Flipside was also a close second for Freeway. But my number 1 song that I decided to pick here was Late in the Evening by Paul Simon. Now, my family, I was raised right, y'all. I was raised right. And I was raised with an eclectic music taste. Growing up, I had music from across the board being played in my household. On Thursdays, when we had Spaghetti Thursdays, my dad, you only have spaghetti on Thursdays in the Robillata household. Watch your mouth, okay? On Spaghetti Thursdays, when we all had a one meatball, Dad would always put on Pavarotti, so we'd be listening to some Nessun Dorma. And then on other nights, we'd be listening to the blues. On some nights, my mom was blasting Annie Lennox. On some nights, we were listening to all these different artists. My mom's a huge Van Morrison fan. Van Morrison is actually Tina and I's wedding song is by Van Morrison. And so we love those. But Paul Simon is the artist that is consistent with every single one of me and my brothers and my parents. A few years ago, maybe more than a few now, we got to go see Paul Simon and Bob Dylan in concert, and it was incredible to be there with my family, because whenever I hear Paul Simon, it reminds me of my family. And Late in the Evening is what I believe one of his best songs. The drums are crazy on that. My brother played it in his college band, and so there's also some really beautiful memories around that because I just know how happy he was then, and so it's just really cool. So anyway, that's my spiel. What are some of your favorite songs of all time? What else you got out here? Alex Dudek, Beloved by Mumford & Sons is one of the best songs also. I would put that on here, but then I would start crying because I'd start to think about my parents not being with us anymore, and that's just a little scary right now. What are some of your favorite songs? What are some ones that you just cannot turn off? If it comes on, it's go time. First, top three. Next, I was asked, what are my top 3 favorite cheeses? Y'all, music is one of the things that I'm most passionate about. Cheeses are also something that I'm incredibly passionate about. You just don't get this sexy not eating cheese, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Come on here. We moved to the Midwest so I could be closer to cheese. My wife thinks it's for her family. I lied to her. I'm just kidding. It is because of her family. But cheese is a great second thing because there's cheese curds at every single restaurant. Top 3 favorite cheeses of all time. First off, Gruyere. Gruyere is just a sexy cheese. It fits so good in so many different things. I'm here for that. Next is Manchego. Okay, buenos dias. It's a Spanish cheese, and it's lovely. It's a sheep's milk cheese. I love harder cheeses. And next, there are very few things that rhyme with my name. There are very few things that rhyme with my name, Robolata. All right, and so whenever something rhymes with my name, I immediately love it a little bit more. And so that is why burrata is one of my favorite cheeses of all times. It's also just sexy. It's creamy. It's bulbous. It's like me, y'all. You know what I'm saying? It's big, white, and creamy. So we out here. I think that was awkward. I think I regret saying that. Anyway, this is live. So I'm here for it. Thank you, Danielle. Thanks. Good topic switch. Manchego is amazing. Danielle, I appreciate you having my back for sure. This is true, Scott. The cheese curds are incredible. A good Dubliner. Nothing wrong with that, Steve. Nothing wrong with that. So, friends, these are the top three. We got an exciting show for you today. My man coming to the stage. His name is Dan Faill. That's Faill with 2 L's because he goes twice as hard as most people I know. And I like that about him. Here's a fun story about Dan Faill that I'm going to tell before he was on camera is that Dan Faill was my orientation leader in college. That's right, y'all. My OL back in college was great. He doesn't remember me from those days. That's fine. He was really popular, and that's cool. I was not. I was homesick and sad and missed my mommy and missed my normal. We could talk about that later, though, if you'd like. But still, I remember him vividly. So I'm excited to bring him on. Dan Faill is a outrageous speaker. He's an incredible man. Is an outstanding father. I wish you could see the way that his children looked at him. It's really beautiful. Let's start clapping it out right now. Slow clap at home. I don't care if your dog's sleeping next to you. For my man, Dan Faill. Let's go. What up, brother?
What's up, man? How we doing?
I'm good. Dan Faill in the house. Jump for joy. What's up, dude? Dan Faill, you and I, we met a long time ago. We met back in what would be 2000 to date myself. That was my first year of college. Now, you were a junior at that time or a senior?
Yep.
You were a junior. What do you remember about me, Dan, as your orientation, since you were my orientation leader, Dan?
All right. So we should clear the air on this one because you had me for years believing that I was your orientation leader. Now let's set the record straight. I was an orientation leader. I wasn't your specific orientation leader.
Dan, let's talk about the language we use about ourselves, okay? What if you were the orientation leader, not just an orientation leader, okay? Snaps.
No, here's the thing, is that it's a team effort, James. We know this, right? If I had to say that there would be something that I would not have recognized about you is that you didn't have a beard.
I didn't have a beard.
You were like baby-faced and everything and all of awkward Jersey. So yes, sure. Scott, thank you. The truth is coming out. So we're literally at a conference for probably what, 3 years, 4 years. You let me, like, as we become continued friends, you let me believe that I was your orientation leader, not remembering this at all, and then making me feel a little bit bad because every time, every conference, every session, every interaction with people, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is my orientation leader, but he doesn't remember me." You know, for someone who talks about authenticity, James. We can unpack that one a little bit later.
Listen, Dan, you know, sometimes in life when we get caught up in logistics, we miss the beauty of it. You know what I mean? And so I think that's really where we're at here. And I think that's the big takeaway. You know, my type A friends like to always tell me, like, you know, get this done, you got to get it done. You know, they're very detail oriented. And I tell them, listen, stop and smell the roses. But then my type A friends always come back to me and say, James, there wouldn't be any roses if I didn't tell you to plant them.
And I would have said that there would be no roses if you didn't fertilize them, which means all of us need to do a little bit of crapping on each other.
Ain't that the truth right there, Dan Faill? So yes. Anyway, so I think we've cleared the air that you, in fact, were my one and only orientation leader, and
like
I'm really
sweating
glad
from you telling this story.
You know, it's interesting because I thought you were really cool back in the day. And I still think you're cool, for the record. Let me make sure I'm not going to, this isn't a roast yet. But I thought you were really cool back in the day, but it's interesting because I didn't have the courage to go up and talk to you, despite being an extroverted, outgoing individual, someone who is delightfully charismatic. As a first year student, 12 hours away from home in a state where I didn't know anybody else, and I was the only one that talked funny down in North Carolina, I was excited to meet other individuals because I didn't have community down there. Mm-hmm. And so getting to meet someone like you who was just like, I don't know, I mean, you were like the cool dude, right? You were like the guy who's running the show. You had the orientation leader with the swagger, you know what I'm saying? You came through dripping. And so, but I didn't have the courage to talk to you, let alone be like, could we maybe be friends? But it's so interesting the way that we get in our own way sometimes, where it's like, I'm not cool enough to talk to him. He's got all these other things going on. I would be wasting his time. And we start to we start to put all these perceived judgments about ourselves onto other people. It'd be like, they would never want to talk to me. They would probably look at me this way or whatnot. It's crazy the way we do that. And especially as men. As men, we do that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. And I think what's weird is that and we've compared notes on this, right? So the first time that I came back up to you at one of the conferences that we were at, and I was like, hey, you know, like we went to UNCW at the same time, and that's when you first put me on blast of like, yeah, I know, you were my orientation leader. But I remember putting some pieces of the puzzle together, and when we were talking about that, because I think that our friendship became a lot closer once I really started to kind of open up to you later in life. Mm-hmm. And so it's just fascinating. And I think it's a little sad, even the decade or more that we missed out on being even closer friends by making up the own stories that we have and this is my cat getting up on the way, making up the stories that we've got like in our heads, right? Of just like, well, we can't do that, or I can't talk to somebody. And it takes a lot of effort, but it really shouldn't, just to be there and open up a little bit more about it.
Yeah, amen to that. Show us the cat, Dan Faill. Who is the cat?
Here's the thing: is that she likes to be cat handled a little bit. Say hi to everybody. See Buttercup. Yeah, now you don't want to be on camera. There we go. There it is. Always wants the attention.
Yeah, brother. It's so interesting the way that we do that. And I'm so grateful that. I mean, that Campus Speak brought us together, and we were able to have that conversation where you approached me and I was like, yeah, you were my orientation leader. I do remember you. But I'm so grateful that you came up to me because we became friends when we were supposed to become friends. And that's cheesy. And I'm not like a whole, like everything happens for a reason. Just wait. No, you need to play offense in life. And so, but it is cool that we came together during what was probably a really tough time for both of us. We were both going through some interesting life changes. We were both leaving relationships and then trying to figure out what next steps could be and whatnot. And I just want to formally thank you that you trusted me in those moments. What was it, not about me, but what was it about like the individuals that you talked to during some of those tough times? How did you decide who to open up to and who not to? Like, there's so many people that are listening right now that are maybe going through something. And how do you determine, like, how do you trust, right? Because vulnerability is something that you and I preach and talk about, but you just can't be like at a restaurant and be like, "Can I tell you a story?" Right? Like,
I mean, oftentimes the waiter is just kind of like, "I'm just here for your order." Like, that's fine. Yeah, dude, that's a great question. I think for me in that moment of questioning kind of where I was in life, and quick shout out to being the 3 of 3 divorcees on your show. I'm noticing a theme. I think at that point in time, I didn't have a lot of what I would consider like I have friends. I have a lot of friends, but I didn't necessarily have like close friends or people that I could call with just be like, "Hey, I just want to process today, yesterday, the week, life, because it's a Tuesday," right? Like whatever. I didn't have much of that. And I knew that our conversations just, here and there were always within the first 5 minutes, as anyone who's met you and talked to you, they get deep real quick. But you also, and so what I enjoyed and needed at that point was someone who wasn't going to just be like a friend, be like, "Oh, that sucks. What are you going through?" Yeah, well, this also happened to me, right? Like I needed someone who was just going to listen and be there and help process, but really ask me the questions and the hard questions that you need to be asked, but you don't want asked. And so I knew that you would be that. I knew that there's an aura of like confidentiality that you have. That's like, this until is a guy I can trust.
Agree. Yeah. Until the very shit.
So yeah, I think that's just part of it, man, is that reaching out. I think that outreach allowed me to then outreach even more. Right. So I had another group of friends that we were going to do some vacations with at the time. And we were talking about it. And then I realized like, it's freeing. It's opening when you are able to talk to other people, especially if you're just, if you're shooting the proverbial poo, right? If you're just out, just kind of hanging out and talking, or if you're like, "Oh my God, I enjoy these people's company and I'd like to just get to know them on a deeper level." Because I think it just happens a lot, especially later in life. We just kind of go through autopilot and it's like, "Well, I don't need to make friends. I've got friends." But I don't know how many we have that we would call like deep friends.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that I know a lot about, but there's not a lot of people that know a lot about me. And a lot of that for me it's a defense mechanism, right? It's very much like, it's very much like, "Listen, no, I'm here for you. Let's talk about you. Let's go. What's going on in your world? Like, let me be there for you. But my things aren't a big deal." Right.
Yeah.
One of my biggest fears in life is being a burden to other people. But yet I love when other people burden, i.e. just talk to me. Like, I love that. Like, please I want to help lighten people's load. Like, let me help carry some stuff. Let me help, repack some things so it's easier to manage. Whatever it is, let me keep beating that metaphor. But still, that's something that I find difficult. Mm-hmm. And even in those moments where you were opening up to me, I didn't open up to you as quickly. Like, I was like, "Cool, Dan's calling me and like, let me help Dan out." And like, meanwhile, my life was also going awry. Mm-hmm. And so at the same time, it was because of your vulnerability that I was able to eventually get there. And also because of your stubbornness, where you're like, "Hey, guess who just talked about himself for 45 minutes? How are you doing, James?" And like, not letting
I'm glad that we can still have those conversations too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and I think some of it, right? Like, everyone knows someone who's going through something, and you knew that I was going through something, and you weren't in a place to share at that point. Which was, it's fine. We're all on our own journeys and everything together. And I think, what was also somewhat almost like lifting a burden from my shoulders of conversations was, okay, so you're going through something, I'm going through something, but I'm not going to talk too much about it. And then you reached out to me and said, "Hey, I've got a friend of mine who's going through some similar stuff. Are you okay if I put the two of you together?" And I was like, "Sure, cool." And then, that individual and I probably talked for a while, a couple different times, and it was freeing to know that I wasn't the only one. And it's crazy how many days and months go by that we think that we're the only one going through some stuff, and we're all trying to unpack different parts. And it's just, I don't know. I think that's why I like doing this and just going around talking to people. And, you know, I love that you and I do similar, you know, keynotes and conversations with just trying to get people to open up, because it's hard, but man, once you find that cohort in that group, it's nice, because I've also opened up to some people and they've used that as almost like ammunition for later. Right. Or it's kind of like, hey, I confided in you for something. And it's even happened as recently as like this past December. I confided in somebody and let them in a little bit. And then within 24 hours, I had a friend of that friend come forward and was like, hey, I already know this about you, but they're talking about it. And I was like, okay, great. So I'm going to file that one away of
not trustworthy,
feeling violated for trust.
Yeah, that sucks, dude. That sucks for sure. I'm curious, for those of you that are watching right now, what are some of the qualities that you know? Throw them in the chat. Or just what are some times where you're like, oh, I know that this person is good people. Like, what do they do? How do they make you feel? How do they talk to you? What are some of those things that work for you in some of those moments that kind of tip you off? Like, hey, no, this person, I can go a layer deeper, right? I can peel back a little bit more of this onion, Shrek, and we can kind of get in there. Yeah, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about that. So the extra layer that we could talk about also is just being men in this space. And being men, it is societally acceptable for us to be internal processors. Right? It's almost expected that men are internal processors. If you look at men like a sound wave, men's emotions must stay between two levels. Right? They're not allowed to get any higher or lower than a certain thing. You got to keep it within that bandwidth. If you get too crazy or too depressed or too this or too that, people are like, whoa, hang on a second. Listen, take your man card away from you there, loose. Getting a little loose, Lou. And so we're taught to stay within this certain bandwidth. And within that bandwidth, it often means that we don't talk enough to others. And when did you start recognizing in you that, like, oh shoot, maybe I should stop trying to carry this myself?
I would say about 6 months leading up to my divorce, and then after it. So it's been, oh my gosh, my ex would probably correct me on this one, 5 years ish since we've been divorced. But I think overall in terms of my journey, for seeing that, for feeling that, I knew that I was bottling a lot in, right? So I'm reading a book right now. It's from an up and coming author, Brene Brown. Maybe some people have heard of her.
Sure. I saw her in a newspaper clipping.
Yes, I think so. I think she's written a blog or two. So I was reading actually today, and, you know, in terms of our abilities to have emotions, it's either you are angry or you completely shut down. And those are the two areas that we get to go to. And I got to a place where I was bottling so much in, where rather than having an actual conversation or actually talking about the issues at hand, I would either get really angry, or I would just be like, you know what, it's not worth it. It's not worth my time to have the argument. And then I would just leave. But the anger started to build more, and I found myself like just wound really tight. And so I found myself at some points getting angry at the kids for like not being able to find their shoes, and what 3-year-old can find their shoe, right? And it was just kind of like, find your shoes. I can't find my shoes. Like, why can't you find your shoes? You know, and just going into those moments, I was like, this is not the dad I want to be. I'm not the person that I think I should be, right? And so I think realizing a lot of that as the journey has really helped me open up even more, of kind of like, no, this is what I'm going through, and I want to be a good father to my kids, and I want to be a good role model. And I was in a relationship that, you know, was good, you know, and I think if anything, my ex Brooke and I have an incredible post-divorce relationship where we co-parent like rock stars. And I absolutely adore her, for what we're able to do. And I think part of that is just the journey as human beings, right? I think we were both married kind of young, and as you grow and learn about yourself, you're able to open yourself up in different ways. And as guys, like you mentioned, we're taught to not open up, or we're seen as less than, or we're seen as weak if we open up and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And it's like, oh, bro, you got emotions? Like, that's not cool.
Hold up.
Yeah, whoa. Like, and it's like, I refuse to live by that anymore. And if I lose some friends over just my vulnerability and honesty, then they weren't really friends. And so I think that's just part of life.
Yeah, definitely. I think, first off, I love what you said. I love how your self-awareness in the moment to recognize that, like, okay, my fuse is a little too short around my kids, that I should have a little bit of patience with. It's funny because I feel that right now during quarantine, where during quarantine, I felt a little bit more sensitive. And I think it's a little bit because, and not a little bit, I think it's a lot of it because we're not in control anymore.
Yeah.
And control is such a powerful thing. And so for me, I've noticed that. And actually, I pulled Tina aside and I was like, I know you've probably already noticed this and just haven't said anything to me because you're being patient, and thank you for being a good person. But I wanted to let you know that I know that I've been a little bit more sensitive lately. So that joke or that shot at me that I would normally laugh about, or normally I would be like, oh, okay, you gonna take a shot at me? Well, get ready. I'll beat Sampras on this court. We gonna volley. That's an old school unnecessary tennis reference, but still, like I love the give and take. I love the banter. But instead it's like, oh, I don't know why that hit me. And it wasn't any different than anything that you would normally say to me, but my fuse was just a little bit shorter. My patience fuse, that is. I'm not someone who like snaps off and pops off on individuals. I'm very fluent in passive aggression though. And a lesson that was passed to me by my father. And that's okay. That's okay. We all learn to speak from somewhere. But it's also something that I've also just worked on. I think I've always leaned on passive aggression.
Well, and it's fascinating about kind of like where we have been, right? I live in Los Angeles, and so we've been in some form of stay-at-home orders for about almost 8 weeks now. And so it's been a lot. And so on my end, I found myself probably for the first 5.5, 6 weeks of just in this like rut of kind of like, I lost all my income for March, April, foreseeable future. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to function. And I went in this really weird funk. And really within the last couple of weeks, I've started to kind of pull myself out, but I've let myself be there. Both intentionally, I think in some cases, and not, because it's okay to feel like I've lost some stuff. And then even today, I mentioned to you right before I got on that, like, I'm nervous, like I'm a little anxious, I'm a little nervous. And I realized I've not hit a stage in 6 weeks, 8 weeks now. And so I'm like, I miss a lot of that adrenaline rush of like being able to impact and being able to talk to people and to do a lot of just the things that I think we took for granted. And so there's some fascinating articles about what COVID-19 has done with, what you're feeling is okay. And that's called grief, and mourning the loss of what was and what it can be. And I kind of don't want it to go back to, like pre-COVID status. Hear me out on this one. And so like when things go back to normal, I don't know that I want it back to normal, because for me, an analogy I'll use that, or was told to me once, is that I've been on the merry-go-round for quite some time. And this kind of lockdown has really helped open my eyes even a little bit more of like, okay, well, I've got some good potential. I got some ideas, and maybe I don't want to be just this type of a speaker. Maybe I don't want to do just this forever. Maybe I want to try something, right? And you and I had a converation of like, well, you can just try it and be like, well, it worked in COVID, or it didn't work in quarantine, right? Like it's okay.
In quarantine.
Yeah, right. And I grew up with the last name Faill. I mean, if I don't talk about failure at some point, like, if I don't try it, I would regret it. And it took me the better part of 8 or 9 years before I finally was like, hey, I think I want to be a speaker full time. Yeah. I had been doing it, and it's just like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't want to try it. And finally I just said, you know what, screw it. Failure is about trying. And if you can't really preach what you don't practice. And so I just wanted to try, and I've loved it.
Yeah. I mean, you can preach what you don't practice. I do it a lot, but you shouldn't.
It's accurate. It's accurate. It's fair.
Dan, you made some really cool points in there. And I love that you're starting to see this as an opportunity to potentially reinvent or repurpose or just take a step back and be like, what do I want? I want to come back to that point in just 1 second. I also want to highlight something else that you said where it was a little bit of like, this is a weird time because there is an innate provider in us, right? And that's something that we don't often like to admit as men who identify as feminists. I'll say it. I'll use the F word on
here. Drop that F-bomb. I see you.
Okay. But there's still some things inside of us where like I still have this innate provider. And so that control of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on. I love that you have rounded that corner. I want to talk more about that, but really quick, we're going to jump into a segment, Dan Faill, that I call 5 things you didn't know you needed to know about me, but are glad you did. It's a long title, but I think it's worth it. Dan Faill, you and I are going to go back and forth on 5 random things about us that people didn't know they needed to know about us, but now they're going to be glad that they did. Do you have a list prepared, Dan Faill?
I've scribbled some thoughts, and I hope that they are okay.
That's totally fine. Dan Faill. So great. I'll go first. I have never seen the movie Titanic. Proudly.
Just never let go, man. Come on. Like, I mean, at some point, right? Like that. Okay. I mean, which is fair. And thank you for sharing. I will attempt to continue to keep my judgment to myself. I
saw the scenes I needed to see on the internet.
This is fair. On the I've never seen front, I've never seen Hamilton. I've listened to the soundtrack with you and Tina in the car once, but that is the extent of what I had. I had tickets to the LA Pantages, and then they shut down 4 days before my tickets or when I was supposed to see the show.
Okay. And that's depressing, brother, because that would have been such a cool opportunity. God, yeah, come on. I love that the tail just like wafts by.
Like anyone who's on Zoom calls, just know that it's just that she just wants, her butt
coming through. All right. I love it. Never seen Hamilton. Okay. Next one for me. In college, I was hired to sing the arias from Handel's Messiah at a local random small town church in Pembroke, North Carolina.
Pembroke, yeah, okay.
They brought me in. I'd never done that before, and they brought me in. And they were like, "Hey, we want you to sing these things." They were looking. My teacher at the time was like, "Hey, I don't do these kind of gigs. They're not high enough paying." But I told him you'd be good enough, and I said, "Good enough's my motto, brother."
My dad used to say it's good enough for government work, so it's fine. All right. So on a similar front, I like this. This is easier. Let's see. I am a 2-time national award-winning actor, and this was in high school. And I won Best Individual Mime Performance, and I also won Best Group Mime. And then the next year, we went back and competed and also won again Best Group Pantomime, and then decided I want something else. And so all my trophies are now in I think Redlands Church in Mocksville, North Carolina, and this is where those trophies are.
Hold up. First off, if there's anybody if anybody else has ever done mime, okay, I need you to smash that heart button, smash that wow face right now. I don't know if you've ever done miming before, but I need to know if you've done it before. Put it in the comments, because Dan Faill, I did not know this about you, that you were exceptional. Like, now, were you like full on, like with the classic white face,
full face paint, everything? Yeah, but I mean, it's miming, so we don't talk about it.
Courtney McKenna, I agree. Exactly, right? Kristen Cardis is out here. This is a valid question, actually. Normally do questions at the end, but I think the people need to know. I don't really, everything comes with trophies because millennials. But as I say, as being one myself. But what is group mime, Dan Faill?
Okay, so it's just what it sounds like. It's a giant group of people miming, right? Like, I mean, it's still theater, so like you still rehearse it, you still do everything, and so you just mime an entire production. I mean, it was like 7 minutes, right? So all of the things. Yes, Dan Lavender. I said mime. M-I-M-E. It's a terrible thing to waste.
Now, okay, so immediately when I go to mime, I immediately like poor Dan Faill, get out of the box. What outside of the box? What other things were you miming? Did you do like the pull the rope? Did you would you remember what was one of your significant memories in mime?
The individual performance that I did, I put on a lot of armor. And so a lot of it was like a little guy. I was pretending to be a little guy. I'm a 6'2" guy, but like a little guy. And so putting on like heavy armor. So, you just put on the stuff and like have to slump the shoulders. And the one that really landed well was when they put the helmet on and you look around and you're like, why is everything so dark? And then you lift the visor. I'm not going to actually do it. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not going to do it. I'm super embarrassed right now.
Y'all, I thought we had it. I thought we had him for a second. I really wanted that. Wanted that.
It's not going to happen.
One of my favorite memories that nobody else would potentially find funny. So why share it publicly? But here we go. I once spoke at Rutgers University. Shout out to Jersey. Sometimes, but I was at Rutgers and we were there as a professional development conference. And there were like 30 professionals sitting in this small conference room with the podium and a mic in front. And all of a sudden busting through the doors is the mascot to Rutgers. And just like walks in, just like, like classic mascot. He walks up, walks right, like doesn't say hi to anybody, doesn't touch anybody, just beelines it right to the front, walks right to the podium, gets onto the microphone and goes, and then he's like, and he started tapping on it. And I was dying laughing.
My God.
I'm here for this mime. Yeah,
that's good. Well, and so I'm going to segue that into another fun fact.
Okay, here we go.
Is that for 3 years, I was also my high school mascot.
Fun.
That was also, I think both played very well together.
I would think so. Yeah. One would be a prerequisite for the other. What was the mascot?
We were the Davie County War Eagles, not just an eagle, but the War Eagles.
Sure.
For a high school that was the only high school for the whole county.
You lived in a prominent metropolis when you say the blank county high school.
High school, yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it. This is a really great fact right here. Dan Lavender's watching it with his lovely wife, Laura Lavender. And the fact that you are a speaker who has a background in acting without speaking is incredible.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And you were not the only avian mascot.
Avian, there it is.
Avian, there it is for sure. Shout out to the ornithologists tuning in. If you're an ornithologist, good for you.
Good job.
Another fun fact about me, I eat my fries first before the burger. I eat all the fries on the plate. I will not touch it. If there's mashed potatoes and steak, I eat all the potatoes. I can't stand cold potatoes. I think potato salad is one of the worst inventions in human history.
Fascinating. I will say my stepmom, she makes some of the best German potato salad, but it's warm. Whereas like my dad and I went to Munich a couple years back and their potato salad is cold, which was very different because I was born and raised on this like German potato salad. It's warm. It's got bacon, like all things heaven in it.
You were lying.
And then it wasn't lying. It's still delicious. My kids ask for that version as opposed to the cold version. So, you go with what works.
I love it. I love it, Dan Faill.
Alex Dudek, your comment. All right. It's not going to happen, but thank you. No.
So.
All right. So another one about me. All right. Seahawk to Seahawk in terms of undergrad. I would say, Dawson's Creek was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was on several episodes of Dawson's Creek. I was an extra for several episodes, and then I was a featured extra for one season. I was on the football team, and for those that know me, know that that's a riot because I play sports like I don't actually play sports at all. I don't even watch sports really, and so I was on the football team in the homecoming court, and that was a lot of fun. I had one line, one word, and we were all in the football huddle, and it was break. That was it.
Wow, you still got it too, Dan. That was really convincing.
I'm more of a method actor, so I need to be like in that moment. But we'll just go with it.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised you didn't go. as a mime. Anyway, so no, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. I think I just saw our follower count drop by 10. People are like, all right, thank you. No, that's incredible. Yeah, Dawson Creek, the high school in Dawson's Creek was Alderman Hall on UNC Wilmington's campus.
Yep.
Which is lovely. Shout out to Pacey. I remember when I took a tour of UNCW. When I took a tour of UNCW, my tour guide gave us a Dawson's Creek tour. And then it was like, oh, by the way, that's the math building. Oh, by the way, that's science. But here's where I saw Pacey. He was wearing a blue gingham shirt. And it was.
Yeah, they were all over campus. I remember there were some days where it was like, you gonna go to class? Nah, I think I'm just gonna go be an extra for the day. And I still did well academically, so I'll put that out there. But go to class for those that are in school.
I'm glad you did well academically. That makes one of us. Here's the last fact that I'll share. You shared 4. I'll share 4. The last one is that I am an Italian. I'm an Italian who hates cheesecake, cannolis, eclairs, and olives.
Fascinating. I did not know that.
I cannot stand them. Any of them. I've disappointed my family for years, in other ways as well. But that's one of the biggest ways.
They're probably most proud that you did the burrata robolata and you still post about that. That's a piece. That's a piece.
That's fair.
Your pasta skills are on point. I've seen your Instagram stories.
Forget about it.
Okay, so all right. I will not do the embarrassing story. I'll do the last one.
Brendan. Thank you, Brendan.
Hey, Brendan, I'm gonna agree with you on that one too. I'm with you. See again. Once you share, there's so many more people in the world.
Yes, Danielle. Yes, thank you.
I love it. That makes welcome home, friends. Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Let's see. I think one of the other fun facts about me is that I love drawing. I know that you and I kind of chatted about it a little bit, and so I do enjoy drawing. Right now, I'm doing a lot of stuff for my kids because they are commissioning me to do little things here and there. So yeah.
Dan Faill, I'm going to cut you off right there because you don't just draw, right? Like I found my mom recently dug up my childhood artwork, and I probably should have some here to show you. Maybe we'll do that in another episode. But it's mainly whales. a lot of specifically baleen whales, otherwise known as cetaceans. But all
right, marine biology major.
And come on now. And GPA blue, but I still learned some things. And so anyway, so I know. Oh no, my Uncle Doc is coming for me right here. I'm very sorry, Uncle Doc. Everything else she makes is gold. Go team. So, but you don't just draw, Dan Faill. I want to show everybody a little bit about what you do. When he talks about, hey, you know what? I do a little dabbling. I've been known to put a colored pencil to a piece of paper over here. This is something that he did recently for his children, and for your son specifically, right? What was the story behind this piece?
So they saw some of the stuff that I was doing for the Association of Fraternity Sorority Advisors silent auction. And so they were like, hey, when you're done with that, can you draw me something? And my son is really into Lego Ninjago. And so he wrote specifically, like, commissioned me and wrote me a letter that was like, I would like, the Lego Ninjago figures with bad guys, with them and the bad guy in the background. Like he set the whole scene for me. Yeah. All I did was like fill in the blanks.
And you could totally see that here. That's incredible.
Yeah. And that's not even the finished piece. I ended up feeling it was a little empty and wanted to do a little bit more with it. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We're all a little bit unfinished, Dan.
Aren't we though? Isn't that a Natasha Bedingfield song? Or that's unwritten, my bad.
That's unwritten, yeah.
Throwback to the 90s Dawson's Creek.
Also a great track though. Here's one other one and this is one of my favorite pieces that I've seen you do. If y'all are loving these Dan Faill photos, make sure you hit a like, hit a love button, or if you want him to commission something for you, we're going to come back to that potential idea. But this is another one that he did that I love. Notorious RBG. Who is fortunately recovering right now, which is great. But yeah, this is an incredible piece, man. Your talent is just awesome.
Thank you.
You got to meet Stan Lee a number of times as well, right?
Yeah, I used to. Well, I mean, I kind of worked for him for a little bit here in LA, so that was, it was a little fun. I think that helped my nerdness a lot. So I've got some books and stuff that I've drawn the covers of, and then I've had him and some other artists and writers sign. So I'm pretty proud of my little collection that I got.
That's awesome, man. That's all. I want to continue on this writing train, actually, as we dive back into our deeper conversation, because you have a talent, right? And everybody just witnessed your talent. It's incredible. But there is a difference between talent, something that you are good at, and something you want to do for money, something that you want to do for the rest of your life. For example, I really love photography. Not a lot of people know that about me because I don't let a lot of my photographs see the light of day. I have a beautiful DSLR. I take some great photos. Tina's mad at me because I don't really post them around. But that's something that I do for me. I've been paid to do photography before. I've shot weddings. I've done headshots. I've done all those kind of things. And it's something that I love. But anytime that I got paid for it, I hated it.
Yep.
Photography was something else. What is it for you about drawing, Dan?
So what's funny is that I've been commissioned, and I've been like, people have been like, hey, I really want this, and I want this drawn. And that's what I used to do in the AFA silent auction. Like, hey, I will draw whatever you want on a comic book cover or a poster or whatever. And I would just sit and not want to do any of it. And I don't know what it is about that. And I think if there's no financial tie to it, part of me is like, there's no rush on it, right? I don't have to deliver that product. My daughter has been waiting on her new piece that she also wrote me a letter, mailed it to me, commissioned. And so she has asked me to do that. And I've been sitting on it on and off for already, I think, 2.5, 3 months. And so just trying to, figure it out. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's because it's a passion project and you're just kind of like, all right, now I feel creative and I want to just like funnel it that way. But there are times where I will draw and I will all of a sudden look up and it's 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I've just been in a zone just drawing that. So it's, it's good times.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's really cool because it's your escape. It's a place where, when you're drawing, is it a true escape for you, or is it when you're drawing, you're able to think about it's almost meditative where you are thinking about life, you are thinking about that, or is it a true, like when I'm drawing, it's great because I don't think about anything else? Which one
I would say I'm more like shut down. I put on, some music and then that's it. That's my only space. If my mind does wander, I will end up just taking a break from the art and going to like write thoughts, but they're never like shower thoughts. I even have like a little Post-it thing in my shower that's like 4 shower thoughts. But yeah, I don't know. It's my escape.
More about what you do when you shower.
I think that's a different Facebook.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a different group, I think.
Yep.
I get clean. I clean.
You have shower thoughts though. That is true. The shower is a place where the mind does tend to wander and we have some of our best ideas, but I love that I didn't know that about you, that you went ahead so far as to throw a whiteboard of sorts, or maybe on the tile, you can actually just use, you can just write on the tile. But either way, that's so smart.
It was actually a conference giveaway, right? So it's not necessarily my idea. Someone else had the idea. And so it was a conference giveaway, came with a little pencil. The paper is almost like wax coated. But the little pencil says like, never let a good idea go down the drain. And I'm all about some good, well done puns. And so I was like, yes, I would like one, please. Thanks.
Yeah. That shower pun's not douchey.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Look at us, we got the RBG fans. Speaking of changing the subject, RBG fans are out here. And actually, we already have some people that want to commission some pieces from you, Dan Faill. So I don't know where your unicorn drawing skills are, but I feel like we can get it there.
We can make some magic happen, I think. At least reach out. I know James has put up the little social media stuff, so feel free to just look out whenever. We good.
Amen. So Dan, here's the interesting thing, because you have this passion, you have something that you love, something you're really good. It's a great escape. And you are unbelievably talented. You are an incredible speaker.
Thank you.
And just, I consider it this is cheesy, but again, we started the show by talking about cheese, so you know how much I love it. But I consider it to be a gift to be in the audience with you, brother. When you were on that stage, and it's really cool. I take notes. But yeah, so it's awesome, man. But you're in an interesting place right now in your world, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, that you're using this as an opportunity to try to figure out how are you going to, or that. I don't know if you'd use the word reinvention. I don't know if you're using explore, but like you're at a place where you're like, hey, my career is okay. It's fine. I love it, but I'm not necessarily getting goosebumps when I do it. I'm not necessarily like finding it. I know you've described yourself often, and if hopefully that's okay that I use this, but as a kitchen sink speaker, where like if people want to program about anything, they're like, we got a guy who can figure that out. And that's an incredible talent to be so versatile. But you've talked about how it's like, yeah, but I care about stuff too. And so talk a little bit about what you're going through right now, man, because I think it's a really cool time. And the way that you're using this time is really cool. I know you've talked about finding a coach and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think some of it, I still love I still love the topics that I have. I just have a lot of them. And really, it took some tough love from another friend of ours, ironically, a mental health speaker, for him to be like, people look to me for the mental health guy. I'm the mental health guy. We don't know who the hell you are because you've got so many different topics. We've got so many different things that you cover. What's your deep dive? And that was a couple of years back. And I was like, well, don't be an ass about it. And especially for like being a mental health speaker, you messing with my mental health. But he's not really, like, he wasn't wrong. And then one of our other good friends, Saul, he and I were talking at a conference before they were all canceled. And he was kind of like, so what, what's your passion? What's your thing? What you want to do? And I was like, I don't really know, because I think I've just been going, in this of like, it's go to the next gig and get on a flight and wake up early in the morning. And then I got the kids and I'm going to be a good dad. And then I'm going to go do this. And so I've never been forced to stop. And April, and so I'm a sexual assault awareness speaker as well. And April is usually a very busy month. And so for them to lose all of April, for all of that engagement and to help students rethink choices, I was like, well, this is a weird feeling. And that's, like I alluded to it, I went into like a weird space of like depression and feeling like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And is this where I'm supposed to go? And do I need to get like a secondary, third, fourth, whatever job? And I was having a conversation with a couple people, and it started to kind of bubble up of like, well, what do you want to do? And what is your passions? Because if we were to look at your different keynotes, there's kind of one common thread, and that's relationships. And that kind of like was that epiphany moment for me of, oh, snap. Like, yes, I believe in, kind of like I just saw Brendan's comment, like, doing a deep dive. Yes. Like, so what does relationships look like, right? And what does that mean? And not just relationship with a significant other, because I'm divorced. So obviously I should not give full advice there. Mm-hmm. But what does it look like a relationship with friends, family, maybe finding a significant other, but then also relationship with yourself. And I think for me, I've started to look at kind of like the Wizard of Oz, this weird inspiration. And okay, we'll unpack this a little bit, right? But like the Wizard of Oz, all of the characters that Dorothy meets along the way had what they were looking for inside them, right? So like the lion, all he wanted was courage, but all he really needed was like that little bit of like the ribbon to be like, oh, I've got courage now, right? And so we all have it in us. And I think just conversations with multiple different people or conversations with those who care about us bring that out. And so I want to really kind of pivot into a lot of what does a deep dive look like for relationships and defining who you are, what do you want, whether that's life, whether that's, job or in jobs, right? I've had some conversations with different people at companies being like, I don't know why we're still here. And I don't know if we as a company are going in the right direction. Great. Let's figure all of that out. And I'm not 100% sure. So I think, overall, it's just, I'm at the early stages of what it all looks like. And Elise is far too kind. But I think trying to figure it all out is something that I'm nervously and anxiously excited about.
Yeah. I love that, brother. I think, and I'm glad that Brendan pointed it out as well, is that what is your deep dive is a really cool, interesting question that most people are on to the next one. Like, this doesn't work, so let me go here. This didn't work, so let me go on to this one. This is what I love about what you are doing right now, is that you are not running from a career. You're not trying to get into something else. Like, you're very much like, no, there's something about this, but it's just not quite exactly where I want it to be. And so let me do some exploration within where I'm at. Like, so many people look outside. So many people look outside, right? We could talk like the grass is greener type stuff, right? And so many people look outside, but when it comes to your happiness, where are you finding that inside when it comes to what fills you and stuff like that? I love that, Dan.
Yeah. Well, I think some of it, even over the last year, you and I very almost in the same time frame launched our masculinity keynotes. And I think the most powerful thing that both of us have seen, because we've watched each other at conferences, is that men are excited to have conversations with each other. We just don't know how to, right? I mean, I was born and raised in North Carolina. Even though you don't hear an accent, it comes out, every now and then. But I think too often we're told a narrative and then we believe the narrative as opposed to writing our own narrative.
Yeah, sure.
And so what I like to do is to have guys actually talk, right? And understand that there's more than a definition for masculinity. I think too often it's like masculinity or toxic masculinity. No, there's a lot of different types of masculinity, right? Like Alex and I had done a program before, and it's like, all right, so what are some of the things? Well, it's if you're not an alpha, then you're a beta male. I just think I don't want to be either. I don't want to be an alpha male. I don't want to be a beta male. Put me as a delta, right? Like I would rather be a delta male that just stands for change, right? And as cheesy as I can come up with right now.
Wow, that was well done,
right,
brother.
Right?
Way to land the plane.
I think we're done now, right? Like we're great.
Thank you.
No, I think, but that's just part of it, right? Like I'm tired of history and society telling us how we should be, and opposed to like, no, this is what I want to be, right? And my kids are, for those that know me, I love my kids, and I will post about my kids all day, every day, because they're incredible, right? Like my daughter does not fit the typical female mold. She is my sporty spice. Like she gets all of her athletic talent from her mom, none from me. My son gets all of his athletic talent from me, meaning he doesn't play sports, right? And so I want them to feel comfortable with it, and just to share a little bit about my son and how just great he is. And this is also a testament to how great my ex-wife is too, is that, he was on a Zoom call with some friends, and he was just talking to his friends, and he was like, you know what? I don't think that I identify with just one gender, right? He's 8, by the way, right? He's kind of like, I don't know that I have a gender. I think I'm gender fluid. And his friends were like, oh, okay, well, tell us more. And so he kind of said, like, I don't feel like I have a lot of the guy, like the boy traits, and I don't have any of the girl traits, but I like things that are all the way in between. And his friends were like, okay. And then they just moved on the conversation. And so, I think that there's just so much power in believing and trusting who you are. And it's taken me the better part of almost 40 years to finally be like, oh, maybe I can listen to that Jiminy Cricket that's been there for quite some time, and just do a little bit more trusting in myself. And I think that's what I've been trying to unpack, the last 8 weeks, 40 years, 39 years, whatever.
Yeah. Let's not get into that. Dan, I love that. I love that you brought that up, man. And thanks for telling that beautiful story about your son as well. That's so cool. And he's the man for sure. Or he is who he wants to identify as, you know what I mean?
He's the person.
Yeah, he's the person. Exactly. Yeah, that's ironic that I messed that up right after. Cool. Everything's fine. But still, I love that you are that you are having the courage to explore. And so many people don't take the time. So many people just get caught in the hamster wheel and just keep going, and they don't know what's happening. And they're like, bah, 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 bah. And like life is happening. And then their head pops off the pillow at 55, and they're a handful of years from retirement. And they're like, I don't know if I've done anything that is truly fulfilling in my life. So I love that you are asking yourself these questions now. And you said something really insightful earlier, where you said that, one thing I've been doing is talking to some of my friends of like, hey, I'm thinking about trying this, or I'm thinking about trying that. And isn't it always the case that other people often see our greatness before we do? Other people often see our ideas, our potential, even before we do, because we're too busy taking ourselves out of the game and comparing ourselves to everybody else's finishes, as opposed to as opposed to just comparing where everyone starts. And so it leads us to stay stuck. But then when we talk to other individuals, they help to start to push us. They form that snowball so we keep it moving. And I so admire you for doing that, man, because you have so much to give. And I'm so excited that you were able to come on the show today and
No
be
doubt.
a part of a third episode of Diner Talks with James. This is Dan Faill, you all. I hope that you all enjoyed this episode. We're going to hang out here and do some questions. If you want to hang out for those questions, make sure you're checking it out. Stay with us if you're on the live broadcast right now. If you're tuning in on the podcast, these questions will be available to you on my YouTube page. So make sure that you go there and you can hear the Q&A between Dan Faill and I. But if you got to go, take care and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, y'all.
Dan Faill, let's see if anybody has some questions for us. I'd be curious to see if anybody's interested. Scott, I love this. Have the courage to explore is real, brother. It's real. What questions do you all have for Dan and I about some of these things that we talked about? It could be about it could be about what we were just discussing. It could be about parenting. It could be about some of those kind of things. Here's a great first question. Let's jump in. Yeah, that's a good one. He just mimed for us, folks. That was really good.
There you go. And in scene. Here we are.
I love it.
Oh, I'm so thankful that we've got smart aleck friends. Yeah, I think, right, like what's funny too, James, is that because you always are like, Dan Faill, right? That has been the full name that I have gone by since moving post undergrad, so post working for my fraternity as a consultant. When I started graduate school, all of a sudden it was no longer just Dan, it was Dan Faill. And it has, for some odd reason, just been so consistent that I don't know what to, like, I don't know how else to rebrand. Like there's nowhere else to go. You know, and so it's always a fun thing. And I remember joking with my ex when we were having kids, and it was like, it really doesn't matter what we name them because they're growing up with the last name Faill. And which is why I don't have naming rights to the children because I was going to name them Epic, right? Or something to that effect. So Scott, of course, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it too. Yeah, right? Right? Yeah. Not gonna, right? That's the middle name. It's fine. Yeah.
I love that, brother.
Epic with a middle name Danger. That's what I'd go with.
There you go, Danger. That's my dad's middle name. It's not really, but he wishes it was.
Right. We all kind of do it a little bit. I got a good friend of mine who they messed up on his birth certificate, and so he his name is Justin, and then I forget what his middle name was supposed to be, but they wrote, I think his middle name was supposed to be Eric, and so they messed up, and it was Justine Rick. And then his last name. And so he found a buddy that was like in the court system, and he got it changed to Justin. And then his middle name now is Credible. So he is just incredible. And I love it. I'm here for it.
Well done.
Well done. Slow clap on that one.
That's awesome.
Don't Fail. I agree.
Don't Fail would have been a good name. Yeah. I love it. Well, Dan, looks like nobody has questions this week. That's totally fine. I'm so excited that we were able to hang out and have a cool conversation, brother. I appreciate you coming through. Hang on a second.
Oh, here we go. All right, Cardis, I see you.
Kristen Cardis. Here's the thing, Dan Faill. I'm someone who says the whole name in general. So you were going to be Dan Faill regardless in my life. I don't know. I'm a whole name kind of guy. I don't know what it is about it. Interestingly enough, Tina, also a whole name person. That was something that we were both doing before we had even gotten together, and it just kind of worked out. So
well, there you go.
But Kristen Cardis, what we got here? This is a great question. What have been some of your best things you've read or seen that helped spark your creativity? Yeah.
I mentioned, but I'm currently reading Daring Greatly. It's taken me quite some time because I don't want to explore myself and haven't wanted to do that work for quite some time. But I've been doing bi-weekly meetings with a therapist. And so that's just been one of the homework pieces that we joked about for the first month. And now I'm like, okay, I should actually do some reading on it. And I'm just through a third of the book, and the pieces that she talks about in terms of shame are fascinatingly powerful. And so I think anything by her is obviously good because, she's done some stuff with her life, and figuring that out. I also do a podcast, or I listen to a podcast just to keep me up to speed on like the political stuff. And that's the Political Gab Fest. That's probably one of my favorite ones. It's got 3 hosts. And so those are the 2 that I might off the cuff recommend.
Yeah. I love that. I would add to that list. First off, I'm a huge, I've said on this show before, and I will say it again. At some point, it is my dream to meet Brene Brown. I have a goal to meet her within 5 years. And so I've set that goal. I don't know how it's going to happen yet, but gosh darn it, we're going to make it happen. If anybody listening right now knows Brene Brown, hook a brother up. But no, it's a serious dream. I mean, I talk about authenticity and vulnerability. I read Daring Greatly in the midst of my divorce, and that was really dumb. And but it was also really brilliant. So I would agree with all Brene Brown stuff for sure. I just read her Into the Wilderness book and really loved it. But some other things that I've been doing, I've gone back and watched David Letterman. My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. I think it's on Netflix, maybe.
Yeah, Netflix.
But yeah, it's on Netflix. That has been incredible just to watch some of those individuals share their stories and some of their vulnerability. I think that's something that, when I dream about this show, I dream about this show being a mix of that show and comedians in cars getting coffee. And so I think that's my dream. So watching that has been really cool. Just to watch the way Letterman ask questions was really insightful. And also just to hear their stories of those guests and what they've been through. And so some other things that have sparked my other things, there's a free organization that you can join out there. It's called Creative Mornings. It's called Creative Mornings. It's one word, Creative Mornings. And I believe you can become a member for free. And they, excuse me, right now they do something called field trips. And their field trips are, there are often, and I'll put some of this stuff in the bio after this gets posted about Creative Mornings. But their field trips are when you're not in quarantine land. They are a certain amount of individuals that get to come together and they either learn a skill or a craft or they go a deep dive into a school of thought. And so and it's really cool because it's like, hey, come meet this graphic designer and they're going to tell you about their process and show you their studio. Come meet this so-and-so and they're going to show you how they do X, Y, and Z. It's really fascinating, but they're doing virtual field trips and I believe they are free. They're free, and there's a ton of them. There's like multiple ones a week. So I know I'm actually going to be leading one on virtual public speaking skills in May. But there's so many cool ones. Like this week, I know there's a cocktail and mixologist that's going to teach people how to make old fashions and another drink. There's different individuals that are teaching different recipes. There's cooking. There's art. There's also like, hey, here's some low-end coding information that you might be able to apply in some of your business. Hey, here's an email marketing tip. Here's a whatever. It's all these cool different things like learn how to knit. And some of them are just super random. And so I've been trying to tune into some of those just because I think they're really cool. And I'm down for listening to anybody talk about something that they're passionate about. I pretty much don't care about what it is. If you are talking about it with passion, I'm probably going to listen. So those are some things that we've been doing. Kristen Cardis, great question. So for sure. Oh, here we go. Alex Dudek dropping a cool question in with a hard left turn, but a valid question. Dan and James, I miss North Carolina too. What cookout? Here's the thing, Dan Faill. Right after we graduated, they built a cookout.
So mad about that.
Next to UNC Wilmington's campus. Like literally,
so mad.
You could walk there. You didn't have to cross any roads. It's basically on campus. So yeah, that's probably good
dangerous.
And bad.
That would have been super dangerous. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
What's your go-to on that in that capacity?
First off, any place that considers a quesadilla a side is on my list.
Retweet that. Yep.
Yeah. That's I'm usually getting the quesadilla. Sometimes I'll double quesadilla because that's what I would do.
Because why not?
Because why not? And I can't think of a pun right now.
Yeah, it's it's just twice as cheesy. Yeah. It's fine. Man, I would always the shakes. I'd mix it up just between one of the burgers or whatever. But man, those shakes. When I was out there working, a friend of mine would be like, "Hey, what do you want?" I'm like, "Hey, just give me a shake." And she's like, "I never know what shake you get because I always mix up different things on that shake." Right? I'll go with the vanilla, but then I'll get a little bit of that coffee in there with a little bit of the like Heath and Oreo. Right? You never know. You just mix it up.
Yep. I'm here for that. For that. Scott gets a quesadilla as a side. Yeah. I'm all about, I get a shake. The only thing that I absolutely love at Cookout are the shakes. Everything else is pretty mediocre. And I'm going to offend some people with that, and that's okay. But you'll deal with it. But but the shakes at Cookout are no joke.
Hands down.
I love it.
If you finish one, I feel like I can't move for the next day, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. Is this one for me or you, Dan Faill?
That's totally me.
Dan Faill, we're going to do this right now. Because I also do a Kermit the Frog impression.
Or is it a Kermit off? What are we doing here? Okay.
A Kermit off.
A
Kermitable competition.
What's funny is that, so Henley and I went to school together. And so there's just a running joke, but that was one of my things. I actually did write down that like I do a good Kermit and a good air horn. So those are the two other fun facts.
Okay, great. Do you want to show your air horn right now to people, since you won't show people that you mime?
I think it's better experienced in person as opposed to, I don't know what digital distortion is going to happen. So I think it's an unfair item for the fans.
If anything, I think it'd help you.
Thanks for that.
I'm just saying, it's a distorted sound.
All right. So then, all right. If I'm going to do an air horn, then I want you to do the Comfort Colors.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then we can do the Kermit off.
Okay, perfect. Here we go.
Kermit off. All right.
Okay,
that's
Kermit
you.
off.
No, are we doing the Kermit? We're doing the
air
horn.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is from the auction that Dan and I sometimes do together at a huge conference called AFLV. And we sell T-shirts to people that shouldn't be spending money on T-shirts, but they sometimes go for $200 because privilege. So, ladies and gentlemen, this next shirt is Comfort Color.
It's been a while since I've had to do it, but there we go. That's the best I can do right now.
Dan Faill, that's a really good air horn you got over there, buddy.
Well, James, I appreciate that you think that, and I love that you have been able to bring me on and have me here. It's good. I appreciate it.
Yes, well, I mean, when you think about it, it's not easy being handsome, but you and I somehow push through.
It's both a burden and a blessing.
Yep. Exactly.
All right.
We don't need winners because everyone's a winner right now. So we're
everyone's a winner. Thank you, Courtney McKenna. I appreciate it. We'll take it. So officially, the show has reached a new high. Laura Lavender, I'll work on getting you a new one right here. Do you do any other impressions, Dan Faill? Like, are you any other Muppets? Like Kermit?
God, it's been years. I feel like. Oh, what was the Waka Waka Waka? Right, like that's Fozzie, right?
First, that is Waka. Yes, that is Fozzie. First off, my brother coming in here. I don't know if you felt that breeze, but that's called shade. Nothing but shade.
I'm here for that. I appreciate it. I think other impersonations, it just kind of depends. I don't practice them. I think it's just, I've always had one of those where I can hear something and then just kind of do it. So like even doing musical theater in high school, I can't read sheet music. And so the theater teacher would bring in someone, they would sing the piece. I would basically do the same piece. And they're like, okay, great. So you matched it note for note. Great. Good job. Something.
There it is, folks. Dan Faill, the choral expert.
We'll take it.
Friends, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you being here. I'm going to put information for how to keep in touch with Dan Faill in our in this post after we get it up online. So make sure that you send it on to your friends. Catch up with him. He is worth your time. If you need a speaker in so many different venues, he is exceptional. He's not doing commissions, but maybe if you're nice to him, he'll draw something for you. But no matter what, Dan Faill, thank you for being an incredible friend and an incredible man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and say hey to your better half for me. I appreciate y'all. Will
do. Appreciate you. Friends, thank you so much for tuning in to this last episode of Diner Talks with James. And by last episode, I mean the third episode is not like the last one ever. Don't worry about it. I hope that you will come through and tell your friends about it. That would be so cool. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, smash that subscribe button. If you're watching on my Facebook page, do me a favor and please hit that like button on there so you know when the next one's coming out. And every single one of these episodes is being curated in part by you. I want to know what you want me to talk about, what my top threes are. What are some cool lists that you have some ideas around? What are some cool things that we can talk about? And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you to tune in next week. Until then, make sure that you're talking to somebody about what you want to do in your life and what dreams that you have, just like Dan talked about, and let other people love you, because other people will love you sometimes before you love yourself. Thanks so much for coming in, y'all. Y'all take care and be well.